We're live.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a great Saturday morning wherever you are in this country. We are in Fort Bend County in the southeastern part of the state, right next to Harris County, which is home to Houston, Texas, which is where we were on the debate stage 2 nights ago. And thanks to everybody who was there with us, everyone who was there in spirit, everyone who tuned in, everyone who sent some words of encouragement before and then some words of support afterwards. Very grateful to you. We had a great chance to spend time with supporters and friends yesterday, and now we're in Fort Bend, but we're also in House District 28. There is a special election in the Texas House for this seat that takes place on November 5th. And even perhaps more important than November 5th is October 22nd. That's the first day that you can vote early in this election. And we know from experience how critical early voting is. So a little bit more than a month left before people start voting in an election that could determine the composition of the state legislature, meaning that this is the first chance in a really long time that Democrats could form a majority. And that's important for redistricting. That's important for any issue that you care about, whether it's guns, whether it's education, whether it's teacher salaries, whether it's the Texas teachers retirement system, whether it's the environment, whether it's climate change, whether it's infrastructure, you name it, the state legislature is going to decide that issue. And if you are frustrated with the dysfunction and the lack of action, or taking action in the wrong way, like those 10 bills that just went into effect September 1st, making it easier to take guns on a school campus, easier to take guns in a place of worship, and you want to see some change, then this is an election that you should be paying some attention to. I want to introduce you to Eliz Markowitz, who is our candidate for HD 28. She's going to spend these next 4 weeks going into early voting and then all the way through November 5th, knocking on doors like we're going to do here today, introducing herself, listening to the people in this district to make sure that she's reflecting their urgency on the issues that matter most. And this is what someone referred to as a red to blue district, meaning that it's been historically represented by a Republican and might seem like a really tough district to win. But let me just share this with you. Barack Obama in 2012 lost this district by 30 points. Hillary Clinton in 2016 lost this district by 10 points. We, all of us working on the Senate campaign in 2018, lost this district by only 3 points. So it is very quickly moving in the right direction, very much in play. And this is our candidate, Eliz. Eliz, would you introduce yourself to the folks on live stream before we start knocking on doors? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Dr. Eliz Markowitz, and I'm running in House District 28. Our election is in 52 days, and it's the most pivotal election in Texas in 2019. It's our only opportunity to flip a seat from red to blue and ensure that we have fair maps and redistricting after the census in 2020. If we don't do this and flip this house in Texas, we're going to be stuck with Republican corruption and gerrymandering for another decade. So it is imperative that you tell your friends, you tell your neighbors, you tell your pet kittens to come out and vote, because we need to flip this seat and make sure that Texas turns blue.
You know who you just connected with on that comment is my daughter Molly.
Excellent. Hi, Molly. Cats are amazing.
She just rescued 2 kittens out of a bush outside of my mom's house, and so she's like nursing them to health, making sure that they're ready, and then she's fostering them to be adopted by someone else. So Molly, if you're listening right now, those 2 kittens, got to make sure that they're engaged in this. And one last thing before we take you with us as we knock on doors, which is the best way to run a campaign, to win an election, to make sure that you understand what's on the minds of those that you want to represent and serve. I know that people across Texas understand that this entire state is in play. Recognize, thanks to what you just shared, how pivotal November 2019 is. You know, a little more than a month away when early voting begins for this, and understand that the ability to ensure that redistricting is fair, to ensure that everyone has a voice in the democracy, is pivotal towards 2020. Absolutely. And what we want to see happen statewide in Texas, and what we want to see happen nationally for the country. So if someone's watching this and does not live in this district, cannot vote, and they're in another part of Texas or they're in another part of the United States, and they want to find out more about you, or they want to help, they want to pitch in some money to make sure you have the resources to knock on all these doors and meet all these people, where do we send them to on the World Wide Web?
Okay, so if you can go to www.eliz4tx, E-L-I-Z, the number 4tx.com, you can find out all about our platform and you can donate to our campaign. Please keep in mind that even if you're not in House District 28, but you're in Texas, this election affects you. House districts, we may represent our certain district, but at the end of the day, we all come together as Texans to make sure that everything is fair and equitable across this state.
All right, we can win this election. We have the candidate. She's putting in the shoe leather. We're about to go knock on some doors, but if you want to help, now's a great opportunity to do that. So thank you all for your consideration, and we're going to follow you as
Hey, I
you
told
know.
my kid there's some famous guy out there.
Hey, how are you? Who is this?
Say hi.
I'm Beto. What's your name? Eden?
Yeah, you want to take a picture?
Hi.
Here, I'll do it so you can
How are
jump
you?
on.
You want to say hi? Hi, I'm Eden.
Beto, nice to
from
meet you.
Bosnia.
Nice to meet you all.
Yeah.
You know what? I really like Frozen, and I like Elsa, and I see Elsa on your shirt,
Do you like Elsa?
and she's
Yeah.
holding a snowflake in her hand.
Yeah.
I like that. It's right there on your shirt. It's so cute. Yeah.
How about you, Eden?
Mario.
I like Mario. Yeah. Do you play Super Mario Karts?
Well,
Or
I don't
Nintendo.
have it on my Nintendo, but I have this new game. It's like kind of like gorillas, but it's a gorilla game that I had to beat the levels. And whenever I beat all the levels, I go to the bosses. And my dad has to beat all the bosses, and then we had to go to the snow one.
Ooh.
The snow
What's it
one-
called?
Well, there are a lot of bosses, and whenever you beat on the last one, there's a seal boss, a white polar bear one, and
I've
there's
never heard of this game before. I
It's
like
so
this.
good,
I want
yeah.
to play it. You're gonna have
You
to
wanna
remember
take
the
a
name.
picture?
Eden, I want to introduce you to Eliz Markowitz. She is running to represent
Hi.
you
Nice to meet
in
you.
I'm
House
Eden.
District 28.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice to have
and
you
so
guys.
let me get a flyer.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it so you can learn a little bit more about her. Early voting is October 22nd, and she's really focused. I'm gonna allow her to introduce herself, but she's really focused on education, which I'm thinking about Eden here and your daughter. She really wants to make sure they have world-class public schools.
Yeah, absolutely. So we need to make sure that our kids are prepared to meet the challenges of today's society. And right now, we're not meeting that challenge in Texas. We're 38th in the nation when it comes to education. And so we need to make sure that guys like Ethan are able to go on and graduate and get jobs that can sustain themselves and provide a high quality of life.
I mean, it's a sad way education in the United States across the board.
Yes.
You come from
Absolutely.
Bosnia, and in like in 4th or 5th grade, you're taking like 12, 13 subjects.
Yeah.
It's really sad here.
Yeah.
Like whole across the board, it doesn't matter which one you live, and also respect those teachers, the way teachers get treated. I gotta buy supplies for teachers, and it's kind of like, you know, you'll think of a country with all the income and all the money to make, you'll think education will be top notch. So who can go to Harvard?
Right.
Who is at Harvard?
You buy supplies for the teachers.
Well, not really. You help them out, but at the end of the day, I mean, who can go to Harvard? That's why you have a bunch of those TVs. Who's eligible to go? You get a bunch of kids from overseas because regular students, he can't go. He can't pass exams. I went here to HISD school. It was a joke. Just show up. You get 4 classes. It was Robert E. Lee High School. Doesn't exist anymore. But it was a joke. Just show up and you pass.
Eden, what grade are you in right now?
I'm in 1st grade.
First grade. And how do you like it?
Good.
Yeah.
What are you learning? What are you learning?
We're learning about small moments and math and science
And what's your favorite?
What's your favorite subject?
Science.
You know what? Every single one of my kids, when I ask them that question,
Yeah.
their favorite subject is either PE or lunch.
Yeah.
So I am so
Or
impressed, Eden, that you
Yeah.
said science. That makes me
Grab a
proud.
picture. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Here,
Eden, come on in.
Stan, you want to take a
Elise,
picture?
come join us.
You're gonna stand with them, okay? And then
We're,
I'm gonna take
we're
a
gonna look
picture of
this
you.
way. Yeah.
All right, you ready? Here we go. 1, 2. Got it.
Well, thank you for stopping by, guys.
Thank
I'll
you.
definitely look at it. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Good
yeah,
luck.
thanks for
Good
saying
luck.
hello. Eden,
Yeah,
thank
please
you.
make
so
sure
and do you
come
remember
out.
the name
Sure.
of the
Oh,
game you were telling me
definitely.
about?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Lots of bosses.
Donkey Kong?
Donkey Kong.
There we go.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah, we all did when we were little.
Yeah.
Hey, Beto.
All right,
Have a good
luck.
one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So they stopped from their
Yeah,
car
say
really
hi
quick.
to
They
you.
just-
Hi.
Elsie.
Elsie, I'm Beto. Nice to meet you. Who's this?
This is my daughter. This is Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea. How are you?
She's a little shy.
Oh, I'd be the same
she's
way.
tired.
Yeah.
We've been running around. We just
Oh.
moved to this neighborhood.
Did
so-
you? From
Yeah.
where?
I
From
thought
Fort Bend County or another part of the state?
another part of the county, the Harrys.
Okay.
Ah, so you need to re-register to vote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Did you meet
actually,
Eliz?
we did vote for
Eliz?
you.
You did?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've got another candidate for you. Eliz is running for State House. And her election
Oh,
Yes.
and her election starts on October 22nd, so a little bit more than a month from now. You can go to any early voting location and cast your ballot for Eliz. And when Eliz gets in, we change the majority, or soon after she gets in, we change the majority in the State House. And it just means that on education or on gun violence or on environmental issues, you've got a leader who's going to represent you. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you a chance to meet her and would love for you to
Nice to meet
support
you.
her.
Definitely nice to meet you. And
yes, I would definitely. My husband would have loved to meet you.
Oh,
for sure. Yes.
should we take a picture and send it to him?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Beto.
Juana.
Nice to meet you, Juana. Yes.
It's her son's birthday, so she's running around
Yeah,
the air.
How old is your son today?
8.
Right on.
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes.
got an 8-year-old at home.
You do?
Yes, our son Henry's 8. He's in 3rd grade, and in fact, he's in a couple months is going to be 9 years old. Yeah, it's a great age.
Yeah.
A few moments later.
Last few doors that we've knocked on, we've had to leave. Eliz has been leaving a note, just letting them know that she's come. She has a card with, points about her campaign, how soon the election is. Again, a little more than a month from now, on October 22nd, people in HD 28 here in Fort Bend, just next to Houston in Southeast Texas, will begin voting in an election that will ultimately determine the composition and then the majority of the lower house in Texas. And that's really important as we go into 2020 in terms of statewide elections. It's really important in terms of redistricting. It's really important when it comes to gun laws or education or health care or anything that you could possibly care about in this state and then by extension in this country. So if you are interested in helping out, you can look up Eliz Markowitz, get behind her campaign. She's the only Democrat in this race, and this is a seat that has been held by Republicans since 1712. Since when?
2007, but
2007.
when it was created.
When it was created in 2007, it's always been held by Republicans. So since the beginning, and I said this on the earlier live stream, but Barack Obama lost this district in 2012 by 30 points. Hillary Clinton lost it by only 10 points in 2016. I lost it by 3 points in 2018. So it's only moving in one direction, and it's moving very quickly in that direction. She could be the person who takes this district over, and then by extension ensures that Texas is truly reflective and representative of the people who live in this state. We are definitely not a red state, although that's how we've been characterized. What we truly have been is a non-voting state. By going door to door, Eliz is going to make sure that people vote in this election. Early voting starts October 22nd. Election day is November 5th. This election will help determine the future of this state, by extension, the future of the country. So we would love your help in getting behind Eliz. If you live in District 28 here in Fort Bend County in Texas, make sure that you're registered. And we just talked to 2 people who have to change their registration because they just moved to the district from another part of the state. And if you aren't registered at all, got to get registered. And if you are registered, you've got to put October 22nd, where you can vote at any early voting location in HD 28 and really decide the outcome of this election. And these are interesting elections because they're special elections, meaning there may not be much else on the ballot. Typically in Texas, elections happen on an even numbered year, 2020, 2022. This is 2019 because we're filling a vacancy that's been created. So that's what we're doing today, knocking on doors. beautiful day to do it. Kat, how is your camera holding up?
Pretty good. We went down earlier because of the heat.
Because it got too hot.
Yep.
The iPhone overheated.
Back at it. How hot do you think it is out here?
How hot? It feels like it is 92.5 degrees.
We'll check it in the car.
Am I following you or am I going this way? I think you're going with them. Well, I think we're gonna get in the van now. All right, we'll see you over. Now we're gonna go meet Eliz's supporters and just encourage them to go out and knock on doors as we're doing here. Think about the fact that it's hot for us knocking on doors. This iPhone just shut down. Two gentlemen who are cutting the yard across the street, and if it's hot for us, it is really hot for them right now. And I bet you this is not the only stop on their day, and it is only going to get hotter here in Fort Bend County. So to everyone who's out there right now, drink plenty of water, get some time in the shade, be safe out there, and we'll see you down the trail. Thanks, everybody.
A few moments later.
I gotta tell you, the road to 2020 runs through 2019. The road to America runs through Texas. And the road to Texas runs through Fort Bend County. So we could not be in a more important place at a more important time than where we are at this moment. Happily drinking a beer without judgment. It is 12 o'clock somewhere. No Label, I want to thank you for hosting us. I want to thank you for bringing us all together under this beautiful sky in this extraordinary country that finally has a chance to get it back and to make sure that we are reflective and representative of everyone, of the genius of America. As we were knocking doors just now, Eliz and I, first person who came out to talk to us, we asked her, what issue is most important to you? And you might have expected to hear healthcare, or gun violence, or the endemic racism that defines life for so many of our fellow Americans, any number of issues that are critical to the future of this country. But the first thing on her mind was compassion. She said, I just want us to be good to one another, to listen to one another, to bring everyone in to the future of this country. So we say, no me importa. If you are a Republican, you're in the right place. If you're a Democrat, you're in the right place. Independents, you are welcome here as well. Whether you're drinking a beer or abstaining on this day, I just want you to know that before you are anything else, you are our fellow Americans, our fellow human beings, and now, if ever, is our opportunity to treat one another in that way. To make sure that everyone receives the kindness, the dignity, the respect that they are owed as human beings that have been denied to far too many. When I was asking Eliz about what motivated her to run, she talked about her long, deep history with public education. And she said, I want to make sure that our public school teachers and educators and support staff and bus drivers and counselors and librarians and therapists and cafeteria workers are all treated with the respect that they deserve and that they've earned, that we reflect the kindness and the goodness and the strength and the power of what they provide day in and day out in that classroom. Very often in Texas, in fact, better odds than not that you're working a second or a third job just to make ends meet. That out of your own pocket, you are paying not just for the supplies in that classroom, not just for the decorations as we approach Halloween, but for that child on free and reduced breakfast and lunch. You're paying for their dinner because you know they do not have a warm meal to go home to at the end of the day. To that child who shows up in the same pair of jeans, the same t-shirt, the same chones and socks Monday through Thursday, by Friday, that teacher has purchased a new set of clothes because she understands that his ability to learn is tied to his sense of self-worth and dignity. And though she does not have enough to make ends meet in her own home, she's going to make sure that that kid can meet his goals in his life through that classroom. What if, Eliz asks us, we paid that teacher a living wage, showed her the respect that she deserved, make sure that every kid, regardless of their zip code, the color of their skin, how many generations they can count themselves Americans, or whether they just got here last week, can look forward to a world-class public school education beginning not in kindergarten, when you're 5 years old, but pre-K universally for every 4-year-old in this country. What if, given what has just happened in Midland and Odessa, given what happened at Santa Fe High School, given what happened in Sutherland Springs, given the fact that someone drove 600 miles with an AK-47, a weapon of war designed to kill people on a battlefield, and it's what it does more effectively, more efficiently, in greater numbers than any other weapon that is out there. 22 people gunned down in a Walmart the Saturday before school started, buying school supplies. Some of them are those teachers buying for those kids that they are sacrificing so much for right now. What have we decided? That we are not going to be complicit in the violence and the death and the pain and the suffering and the fear under which our children and their teachers and people across this state, especially Hispanics and Mexican Americans who told me they feel like they have a target on their back right now. What if we decided we were no longer going to allow the sale of those weapons of war in our communities? What if we said we were going to buck, that was with a B, the NRA, and instead of listening to or fearing them, we're going to listen to moms demand action. We're going to listen to March for Our Lives. We're going to listen to our fellow Americans who tell me, gun owners and non-gun owners alike, that they also have kids, that they fear for their future, that they want us to do the right thing while we still can, that they recognize this is not a natural disaster, nor is it an act of God. This is a human-caused problem with a human solution, and we are the human beings who have come up with that solution right here in Texas. What if, as we stand here in the most diverse county in the United States of America, we recognize that if immigration is a problem, it is the best possible problem the United States could have. And we want to make sure that no child, no dreamer has to fear deportation back to a country they do not know, whose language they do not speak, where they no longer have family, and where if we send them there and they are successful against those long odds, they'll be successful for that place, not this state, not our country. What if we acknowledged that so many U.S. citizen children right here in Fort Bend County in Texas, in the United States of America, live in mixed immigration status families, know not when or if their parents on their way to work after dropping them off at school are going to be picked up, detained, deported back, separated from them right now in the cruelest administration that this country has ever seen. An administration that has lost the lives of 7 children under their custody and care, an administration that has caged children after deporting their parents back to the very countries from which they fled, an administration that uses this Orwellian migrant protection protocol to leave tens of thousands of desperate, vulnerable, defenseless human beings wallowing in their own misery in Mexico, unable to follow our own asylum laws. What if we decided right here in Fort Bend County, right here in Texas, we would lead this country in completely rewriting this country's immigration laws to reflect our genius, our power, our strength, to acknowledge the facts that El Paso, Texas is one of, if not the safest cities in the United States of America, not despite, but because it is a city of immigrants and asylum seekers and refugees. Y además, though it is a hard conversation for us to have, it is one that is necessary, in fact, fundamental to any chance of success that we have going forward. The long history of race in America, racism in America, the foundation of this country, not on the 4th of July, 1776, but on August 20th of 1619. The first time somebody from West Africa was kidnapped from their homeland their home country, their family, transported in bondage across the Atlantic, made to come here as a slave and build the wealth and the success and the greatness of this country. Not only would they never enjoy the benefits of that, but their descendants effectively locked out of full participation in our economy, in our educational system, and in a state that recently ranked 50th in voter turnout in our democracy. What if we decided that we were going to acknowledge that this is part of our story? It is part of what has held us back and held some communities back more than others. It is part of why we have the largest prison population on the face of the planet, disproportionately comprised of people of color, people who are arrested for using marijuana, which black people and white people use at the same rates, but only black people are more likely than not to be stopped, to be frisked, to be arrested, to be put in jail, to upon release have to check a box on every employment application form, meaning it's less likely that they get the job. Only in this country is there 10 times the wealth in white America than there is in black America. Only in this state is a 5-year-old child in kindergarten 5 times as likely to be disciplined, suspended, or expelled based on the color of their skin, starting a schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline, not in high school, but at 5 years old, when that kid is absolutely defenseless against the system that he's being brought up in right now. What if we decided that we were going to confront white supremacy in America, that we acknowledge that the vast majority of domestic terror groups, and terrorists are white supremacists, and they are armed better than they've ever been before, and that we are going to stop them, and that we're going to have this conversation through a reparations commission to make sure that the full, entire story of the United States of America is told, because we bring in every single person in this country to the table to address the wrongs that have been committed in the name of this country and ensure that they are not visited on future generations. Are we up to that, Fort Bend? Let's lead the way. Y por último, let's make sure that in addition to addressing the dignity that every single one of us should be able to enjoy and look forward to, not just for ourselves, but for our kids and future generations, and that's a dignity expressed in immigration. It's a dignity expressed in reconciling the racism in this country. It's a dignity that can be found when healthcare is a right and not a privilege or a function of luck or circumstance. It's a dignity that defies the status quo in Texas, where the largest provider of mental health care services today is the county jail system. The largest inpatient mental health care facility is the Harris County Jail, that schizophrenics, those with bipolar disorder, those with clinical depression, all too often, they shouldn't have to do this, but get arrested to go to the one place where they are guaranteed the care that they would otherwise be unable to avail themselves of. Universal health care, that means primary health care, mental health care, and ensures that every woman makes her own decisions about her own body and has access to the care that makes that happen. What if we address the economic dignity of making sure that you do not have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet, that one job is enough because it pays at a minimum $15 an hour, that you're able to take time off to be with your family, to take care of your children, to take care of yourself, and that we eliminate discrimination in the workplace, where women of color, black women, are paid 61 cents on the dollar that a white man makes for the same job, the same value, the same hours. Latinas paid 53 cents on the dollar today. What if we made sure that every woman, regardless of her background or zip code, is earning the same as any man in this country? And then this, the greatest challenge that we face, not as Democrats, not as Republicans, not even as Texans or Americans, but as human beings, a challenge that you understand perhaps better than almost anyone else in this country. The fact that the floods that we are seeing, the fires that are devastating so many parts of this country, the droughts in North and West Texas that undermine our ability to feed ourselves or grow what clothes everybody here right now, the wars that have been precipitated by a warming planet, the fact that we have but 0.5 degrees Celsius left to us and 10 years within which to make sure we do not exceed it, after which those disasters that I just described, what you've seen here in Fort Bend and in Harris County, will pale in comparison to the death, to the devastation, to the hell that we will visit on our kids and grandkids. We have this singular opportunity, 10 years, to make sure that we free ourselves from a dependence on fossil fuels, that we embrace renewable wind and solar energy technology, that we keep more land under conservation without cultivating it or raising it or developing it to pull more carbon out of the air, and that we take the lead again as this world's indispensable nation to convene the other powers of the planet to do their part as well. Only then, and only if all of us come together, and only if we commit ourselves to not meeting this with half steps or half measures, or only half the country, can we be up to the greatest challenge that we've ever faced, which will produce the greatest opportunity this country has ever seen. No pressure, Fort Bend County. But this election that begins with early voting on October 22nd and culminates on election night, when we are celebrating the hell out of Eliz's victory on November 5th. This is where it begins. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go do this. Thank you all for having us out here. Gracias. Les agradezco.